back. This is Dana with a Nose. This is a channel dedicated entirely to the lesser known facts and items in perfumery. And today we'll be doing the first ever review of a French house called Herve Domar. So stay with me. Alright, let's get started and let's do it quicker this time. Have you ever smelled a fragrance and immediately thought of two things? One, a child playing with paint with their fingers messily but carelessly at the same time. And two, a national soccer team? You haven't? I mean, I'm guessing you haven't. I hadn't either until I smelled this thing. And it probably comes from the fact that I haven't had a dominant language in a long time, so my brain, my poor, overworked and overtired mother brain is now thinking more in concepts than in words. And these are the two things that came to mind. But let's put that aside for a little bit and do the kitchen sink and go over the facts that I was able to find about this house. I found out about the Herve Domar line of perfumes, not from the forums as it normally happens, but because I happen to like Herve Domar jewelry. Herve Domar did not start as a jeweler. Believe it or not. That is not his first career, if you want. It's not even his second. His first career was that of optometry. I'm not really sure that's the correct technical term for what he was doing, but in any case, he was providing seeing glasses for people in his native Paris, France. And that happened up until about 40 years ago. This guy is no spring chicken, okay? From there, he somehow moved into designing the frames of the glasses he was providing or setting people up with. And that was so successful that very soon after a jewelry line ensued. And it was a very special design, not focused on very expensive materials, but the design was fresh, it was new, it was very modern for that time, and the choice of materials was modern as well, because back in the 70s or 80s, Bakelite, for example, had been forgotten. Lucite was not necessarily the main thing to use when designing a jewelry line, so his choice in very atypical materials, unconventional materials, gained a very dedicated, very loyal cult follower base. So the guy met success first as a frame designer and then as a jewelry designer. Now, it's not uncommon for jewelry houses to come up with their perfume lines. I mean, I'm thinking Boucheron, I'm thinking Bulgari, I'm thinking Tiffany's, I'm thinking Chopin, I'm thinking Cartier, I'm thinking, you know, even smaller one or lesser known ones like Mauboussin, for example. It's a logical step to move from jewelry into perfumery because they are both luxury items, they kind of address the same kind of crowds, and the jewelry houses usually have the right kind of connections and the right kind of supply chains and the right kind of resources and money to be able to move into a different category altogether, and they have very successfully. But unlike some of them who are going completely against the concept that consecrated it, I'm thinking Bulgari, for example. When I say Bulgari perfumes or fragrances, do think opulent, rich, rare gemstones, huge, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars necklaces? No, you don't. You're not thinking that, because they stepped completely out of their conceptual frame, and their perfume lines was launched not necessarily trying to be in connection to their jewelry line. Cartier is doing a little bit better about that. Chopin, Boucheron, they're a little bit more consistent with their styling, but a lot of other houses are not. I would say Herve Domar is, and for some odd reason he reminded me of Norma Kamali. their approach to creativity and creating is rather similar in that their art or their main mean of expressing themselves, fashion, jewelry design, and so on, is a little bit whimsical but well thought out. The materials employed are not necessarily top of the line, but they're made expensive by the thought process behind them. So their perfumes are of great quality and very interesting at the same time. It's almost like seeing you know, two paintings by the same painter. It makes sense. So this is kind of the feeling I had with Herve Domar when I started reading about their line. That's a little bit about the house. Let's talk about the line of perfumes. The noses for this and the entire line actually are two people. I haven't heard of them. They come from an agency called Drom. Their names are Catherine Disdet and Pierre Dinan. I took some notes here because I hadn't heard these names. I've heard of Drom before. It's an agency that employs perfumers and then mediates their collaboration with different homes or houses or lines, and not just in perfumery. Sometimes they're hired to come up with a new flavor for chips, for example. That's a different conversation. So Catherine Disdet and Pierre Dinan, they come both from Drôme, and they composed the entire line of 16 perfumes, as far as I know. This is all I could find on them. There are 16 as far as I'm aware. They were all created between 2007 and 2009. And they all look the same, and they're all in a line dedicated to gemstones. And somehow the compositions are created in a way that represent the essence, I guess, or the mythology behind the gemstone itself. There's a tourmaline, there's an opal, there's a jade, and so on. Actually I got two, but the one that we're going to be talking about today is called Black Diamond. Each bottle, and I'm going to show it to you, each bottle looks the same, like I said, and it's a very, very minimalistic, very modern design. At the moment, as far as I'm aware, they can all only be ordered through their brand channel, hervedomar.com. I think they have a version in English, but even if not, the French is pretty well easy to navigate because it's self-explanatory and very picturesque, so it's easy to kind of find your way to the shopping cart. The only thing that was not easy was the fact that you have to put your credit card information in as opposed to, you know, paying through PayPal. But hey, what can I say? For first world problems, it's not that big of a deal. The process was pretty painless, and the bottles arrived in about 8 to 10 days, which is very fast because they are coming straight from France. The price is very acceptable, to me at least, very accessible considering the level of quality. They were about $70 to $75, I'd say. With shipping, I think I paid $165 for both, two bottles. Alright, so let me show you what I got. I'm going to talk about one of them only, and maybe write a review for the other if I find a venue. I don't have a blog, so we'll see. Maybe I'll put it on one of the Facebook groups. Herve Domar Paris comes like this, in a black, very simple box with the same logo on the front. This is a velvet pouch of good quality and very well made. Once you open it, the bottle looks like this. It's very simple. All of them are 50 milliliters. On the bottom, there's a serial number pertaining, I'm guessing, to the batch. It's written by hand, so they only do small productions for now, as far as I know. One very, very cute detail when I ordered, they allow you to customize your bottle. So if you don't want this to show on the bottom, on the bottle, it's etched usually. If you don't want this to show on the bottle, You can put a word or your name or whatever you want. You have a choice of fonts, a choice of sizes, justification, and colors, I believe. Mine says, not sure you can see it. I hope you can see it. It says mine, because it's mine. Yes, sir. All right. In each bottle, depending on what fragrance we're dealing with, you see 2 little glass gemstones colored in different colors. The ones for emerald, which is the other bottle I have, are one is black and one is green. Others have other colors, and that's the only way, as far as I know, you can tell which bottle you have on your hand. It doesn't say black diamond, it doesn't say emerald. Like I said, every bottle looks exactly the same except for these little 2 gemstones that are in the bottle. The same principle was employed by Olivier d'Urbano. I believe I owned their turquoise at some point, and until I found a replacement for it. And that's another rather obscure house that I'm going to talk about in an episode in the future. But this is the bottle, very simple. Like I said, around $75. It sprays small, so you're going to need 2 sprays, I guess, but it's very localized, which does something to the application. It's easy to carry around. It doesn't stain as far as I was able to tell. And this is it. So let's talk about the perfume itself. And let's talk about the stats first, because those are the ones that you can interpret the way you want. I hope they add some information to the kind of insight you're searching for. All right. The declared, first of all, it's an Oriental. It's a classic, brash, simple, very clear Oriental. It's a resiny, balsamic Oriental. It's built on a few ingredients, and this is why I was saying it reminds me of the Ghana team, particularly the national team for World Cup in South Africa, because it's full of very clear, very young, very brash, very strong stars that theoretically should star each other out, but they don't. They work really, really well together. The effect is very composed, even though it's not very well blended, and that you can very easily identify every single element. And the ones that they declare are incense. We don't know which kind. This is what they say. Incense, patchouli, sandalwood, resins. We don't know which kind. Amber. And that's about it. Well, to the nose, it behaves exactly as you would imagine. It does start with a blast of frankincense, the more resiny kind, the Somalian deeper kind, not the very, very citrusy one. And then a lot of laudan, or cistus, call it what you may. There's also patchouli. It's not very dirty, it's just enough to provide depth to this, and to remove the creaminess from the sandalwood. This is not a creamy, well-rounded, settling type of fragrance. It's more in your face, a little bit of a literal amber if you want. And I would place it in between Amr Sultan and Mitza. I'll tell you why. I talked about the incense and the cistus. They come in right in the beginning. It takes about 40 minutes for the middle notes to come through, which is a long opening, very long actually. The middle, like I said, is patchouli and some sandalwood, but not the creamy kind. It's a woody, a little bit aromatic, even though they don't declare anything that's aromatic in the pyramid. And then about half an hour after that, you get straight into the base, which is a very clear amber. Summer, I would say a Lemmy, but I don't know. But that's what I get to my nose. myrrh, like I said, elemi mixed with some vanilla. I would say it's the true kind of vanilla, but it's nothing fancy. It's probably Madagascar. And a very delicate musk, just enough to make this serious, just enough to make this deep, just enough to make this settle. This is one of the fragrances that don't float. I noticed that with newer fragrances or reformulations of older big names in perfumery, the scent smells the same, particularly in the bottle, but then you put it on and it kind of floats over the skin instead of merging and being enhanced by your pH and by your warmth. They kind of like float and then they disappear. This is not one of those cases. It settles, it kind of engulfs you, and the performance is magnificent. It projects like a monster. It's about 2 yards, I'd say. The sillage is also a big one, 3-4 meters, yards, and longevity is exceptional. I have a very difficult skin, I'd say, but on me this lasts about 14 hours, whole day. Then there's a shower sometimes if my nose is clear and I haven't drank and I haven't been around smoke or whatever. Sometimes I can feel it the next day, but I would say it performs as a fragrance for about 14 hours, 12 to 14 hours. I was saying it's kind of similar to Ambre Sultan. I think it's a little bit better. It has more laudanum, which makes it not as heavy. It is heavy, but not as minerally, if you want. It does provide that sort of a vegetal feeling to it. At some point in the middle notes, my nose feels a little bit, just a tiny bit of wild rosemary, which brings a little bit of the aromatic facet in the foreground. It has none of the spices in Ambre Sultan. There's no coriander, thank God. I have a hard time with that. There's no bay leaf, there's no angelica, there's no, what was it, myrtle, none of that. But also, because there's none of that, it almost feels like a brick wall rather than a stone wall, if you want. It's not as sophisticated as Ambre Sultan, but it's equally potent, equally performant, if you want, and equally clean in execution. It also reminds me of Mitza. It doesn't have the crazy cinnamon, but it does have the same kind of honey impression. I'm not sure if it's a real note, but there is a honey impression there. So in between these, it has something from Ambre Précieux, from Maître Parfumeur Gantier, the red bottles. If any of you is using one of those, you know what I'm talking about. It's a fluid and unctuous and good and solid amber. Again, not very sophisticated, a little bit literal, but the performance is fantastic, and for such a better price than a lot of the other perfumes I mentioned. We're talking, I'm bringing the Ghana team again into the conversation because this is the impression I have. The sheer muscle, sheer talent. All the ingredients should shout at each other because they're not very well blended. Again, they're very easy to read in and of themselves, but they work. The total effect totally works. It's very satisfying, incredibly easy to wear, totally unisex, young somehow and modern somehow, even though it shouldn't be. But I do get that. And I also mentioned children playing or children painting. I do get that image. It's not a caramel colored, conceptual, ambery perfumes. It's more like a lot of colors, painting outside the lines a little bit, serious but careless at the same time. Children can take themselves seriously without caring too much if they are serious or not. If that makes any sense to you, then maybe you'll be able to grasp the idea behind this fragrance. And here it is again. Mine is Black Diamond from Herve Domar, my finds, and now 20 minutes. You know the story. If you like this and if you want to support me, please like this, please subscribe, please leave me comments or send me your suggestions, because I'm brand new at this. My English is not strong. I have bad hair days all the time. So I can help, I can use all the help I can get. Also, make sure you look this up, because in one of my recent swaps, a very well-known gentleman wanted to be part of this, so I shared a vial of black diamond with him. I'm very curious what his nose is going to be able to perceive. He's much better at this than I am. So he inspired me to try and review this, but do keep your eyes out, because he's also going to review Black Diamond by Herve Domar. So in a week or so, I'm guessing he's going to be producing one of his awesome, super cool, way cooler than mine videos. That's it, folks. Enjoy the winter, happy holidays, and we'll see you next time.